This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. The content discussed today is a summary of complex regulatory requirements. Listeners should consult with qualified legal counsel to determine how DFS 500 applies to their specific circumstances. Now, let's dive in.
Welcome to Ctrl+Alt+Comply, where regulation meets reality and risk becomes actionable. I'm your host, Imran Khan. Today, we will dive into one of the most prolific and powerful financial services cybersecurity regulation in the United States. It is known as, officially, as 23 NYCRR Part 500. More affectionately by the industry, known as DFS Part 500, DFS 500, or just as DFS. The regulation first took into effect in March 2017. It was put into place to counteract the threat of rising cyber attacks against financial services industry, which could, as perceived by the regulators, cripple the financial services industry entirely. So when they analyzed some of the breaches that had occurred in the past, they looked and they came up with a few leading causes that were subsequently addressed by the regulation. One, weak governance. Secondly, asset visibility or invisibility of the assets. Inefficient monitoring, ineffective reporting, and then finally, the most important, lack of accountability at all levels. In 2022/23, DFS dropped a bombshell with 2 amendments to the regulation. The amendments subsequently modernized the rule to address today's threat landscape. The second amendment, or the amended regulation as we will talk about it as henceforth, introduced several new concepts. One, it introduced a new class of companies called Class A companies, which are subject to stricter controls. And secondly, it introduced stringent board and executive accountability, expanded incident reporting rules, enhanced identity and access management, and expanded it to include non-human identities as well. Data protection requirements were no longer optional. Broader multi-factor authentication requirements. And finally, there was a sweeping monitoring requirement across all sections. The regulation did go out or was put into effect in phases, with the last phase being in Q4 of 2025. In today's episode, we will walk through all sections, 500.1 through 500.19, explaining what each section requires under the updated regulation. We will not cover implementation, as that is dependent on your company profile. However, please feel free to reach out to me by all means for specific guidance on the implementation of the law.
This podcast is